Hello everyone and welcome back to Coin Bureau Clips. It is time for another Q&A with, once again, our co-founder and CEO Nick.
Third time again, yeah. It's becoming a bit of a regular thing now, right? Yeah.
I think you're almost officially a presenter now.
I feel sorry for Guy because he has to deal with me the whole day, and now he has to also, the one time he doesn't have to deal with me is when he's shooting content, and now here we are sitting, shooting, talking about coins.
There's just no getting away from
No,
them.
unfortunately not, yeah.
Well, if you are going to become an official Coin Bureau presenter, then you have to go through the initiation process.
Oh, really? And what does that involve?
Well, you have to basically fight an animal of our choosing.
Ooh, okay.
So Jessica fought a bear, and the bear did not come off very well.
Yeah, the bears are not doing well these days.
No, the bears are having a shocker. Yeah. So watch out for that, and we'll try and video it this time because that would make for truly
Matador
great content.
Nick.
Yeah. Okay, so it's Q&A time. Once again, you guys have been sending in your questions via Instagram, and well, there have been a lot of them. And
a lot.
There's been a number to choose from. Which is great because it shows just how much crypto is popping off and how engaged people are.
Yeah, and how much people are enjoying the Q&A. So if you guys want to see more of it, hit the like, and subscribe and share. Yeah.
He's a real pro.
I'm learning now.
You've done this before.
I'm going to be an influencer.
You must have been watching the videos.
I'm going to be a KOL influencer.
Okay, well, in that case, Mr. KOL influencer, do you want to start off asking the first question?
This is from Mr. Ahmed Ali Ahwad. And he asks, why is Guy super duper bearish?
Super duper bearish.
I mean, not even just super bearish, but super duper bearish.
Super duper bearish, yeah. Well, I have to say, Ahmed, I'm getting less bearish by the minute. This has been a crazy thing to see. Like, obviously, the ETF narrative has been much stronger than I expected. I think much stronger than probably most people expected. And then, as we're filming this is the day after the market sort of went crazy again, and ETH blasted past 2K. And this was on speculation. Well, and not just speculation.
They just basically filed. BlackRock filed for an ETF
filed,
trust. Yeah,
or an Ethereum
ETF spot trust. Yeah.
So it's just crazy. I'm obviously getting less bearish by the minute. I do part of me thinks when things are rallying this hard and everything's going so crazy, like part of me does think, well, what goes up must come down. Surely we must see a retracement from here. I am very curious as to where all the inflows are coming from. Mind you, as we were talking about this off camera, weren't we? Yeah. And you said, well, this is TradFi.
I mean, I think it's TradFi coming in as well. I mean, I think that there's been a lot of TradFi giants that have made comments around the potential launch of the ETF. Also, some of them that are now exploring, like Stan Druckenmiller and all these other people who, stalwarts in the traditional finance space that are looking into crypto now. So I think that there is definitely more some institutional flow coming in right now for sure. I don't think it's necessarily the retail flow. I don't think it's the retail crypto tourists going crazy. Yeah. But I think that this is enough to prolong, the excitement into the ETF launch. But more to the question, super duper bearish, I think it's also around just tone and narrative. Like, we don't want to be the influencers or channel that's going to be out there shooting to the moon all the time, because people do FOMO in, and it's important to have the right tone and be measured with good chance of analysis. And that's true. There was a lot of macro concerns throughout the first part of the year. But I think that, now things are looking good. The green shoots are appearing very much so, in both altcoins and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And exciting times.
Yeah, so turning more bullish by the moment. But it's a tricky sort of line to try and walk, because as Nick says, we don't want to be the people saying, it's going crazy, this is the start of the bull market, go nuts. Because, well, we don't know, and bear in mind there are a lot of other factors to take into account. The kind of regulatory situation with crypto is still kind of sketchy, especially in the US. There are still a lot of headwinds for the industry. But look, if you're feeling bullish, then you do with that feeling what you feel is right, because we don't. One of the things we try not to do here is tell people how to think. We want people to think for themselves. So all we can do is kind of give our opinions and our outlook on things, and caveat that with all the information that we get and that we have. So Yeah,
presents a case and allow you guys to form your own opinions.
Yeah.
And it could be slightly on the bullish side or the bearish side, but at the end of the day, you guys have to be the ones to make the final decision, and that's what we want.
Yeah. But hey, look, I've been perhaps way too bearish, and that's on me. But anyhow, okay, let's move on then. Mephisto's 2012, who I think has submitted questions before. Welcome back. Is asking the big question, perhaps on everyone's lips: alt season yet? Nick?
That's a very good question. Yeah, I actually addressed a bit of this in my post that I put on the Coin Bureau research feed on the club recently, and I think that it is an important question because obviously now Bitcoin dominance is starting to come down, and people are wondering, is this the precursor to alt season? I would say it's not necessarily the alt season that we would expect in terms of like the ones we've seen in previous bull markets, in the sense that it's not. For a lot of the Bitcoin dominance has been driven by up or down. It's been driven by what's happening with Ethereum because it's such a big market cap altcoin. So if Ethereum showing weakness against Bitcoin, then generally dominance is going to be going up. Whereas the point is, but the other thing to look at is that there's a lot of other altcoins now that are performing very well, right? Over the past 2 weeks, some of the alt layer ones, some of the mid caps, they've been performing crazily well. So what I think is happening, and the reason people are asking this question is because, people who've made a lot of money in the past 2 months or later profits in Bitcoin are still now starting to explore alts again. And alts are performing very well. The question is more related to should you start considering alts? And I think that it's definitely worth considering, especially some of the lower cap alts, because, right, like I say, the Bitcoin dominance angle has been driven by what's happening with Ethereum. But do understand that it's not the altcoin season that you'll see with a massive retail-driven rally with lots of new people, crypto tourists going back into the market. Then you see all alts going up by 5 to 10x over the crypto cycle, and it's just crazy all over. Whereas now it seems like there's some very good alts that are doing very well, but it's isolated towards those. And it's not the altcoin season that you would have known from previous bull markets. That I think will come next year after the ETFs have been approved, after the halving, when retail flow has already been through Bitcoin. Now it's going towards altcoins. That's when you'll start seeing dominance fall in much more, and people going crazy for alts all across the spectrum. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean the ETFs that everyone is now looking forward to, when they get approved, that is going to bring most likely pretty huge inflows.
Yeah.
I think there's a very good chance that we will see a lot of money come into crypto via those ETFs, but they will go to Bitcoin first.
Yeah.
And as Nick says, you then see a rotation out of BTC, profits rotating out of BTC and into alts. So although it looks like we kind of have a mini alt season on our hands, I think we're actually a way away from a real alt season. And if you think this is face melting, just wait. Wow.
Just wait. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, next question. Now it's usually we'd switch over and you'd ask this next one, but I want you to answer this because I think you, with your TradFi background, he doesn't look like he has a TradFi background.
No,
I look like the one with the TradFi background with my shirt and everything.
It's casual Friday, man. Come on, bro.
No one sent me the memo. Yeah. I want Nick to field this question. Because it's a good one. Screen Free Adventures asks, what does the spot part mean when talking about a potential spot Bitcoin ETF?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good question. And I think that people who are new to this term would have been wondering what exactly it means in relation to, we currently do have Bitcoin ETFs, right? So what is this? So a spot Bitcoin ETF is when the fund itself will actually go out and buy spot physical Bitcoin. Now, I know that's a bit of a misnomer because Bitcoin isn't physical, but basically the fund itself will buy Bitcoin, custody it, hold it. So it's actually taking Bitcoin off the market. It's physical Bitcoin. That is as opposed to the current ETFs that are on the market right now, which are futures-based ETFs. And they're what we'd call synthetic ETFs, right? They are structured in a way that the ETF will track the price of Bitcoin, but they're doing it with instruments that are on paper, like futures. So it's not it doesn't track it very well. So the reason that it's not really people have been upset, or not upset, but like disappointed with these ETFs is because they're not optimal. They have tracking error, right? So people have to constantly adjust the futures delta to be able to make sure they get in the right exposure. They're very expensive because they have to be rolled over when futures expire. And this obviously eats into fees for people holding these ETFs. and most importantly, I think for the people who actually not even invest in these ETFs, but for the entire crypto market, they don't impact on the supply of Bitcoin. It's not buying physical Bitcoin, it's just buying paper. So essentially, it doesn't matter if there's so much demand for these spot ETFs, you're going to have, it's not going to really impact on demand of physical spot Bitcoin, which is not going to necessarily impact on the price. So yeah, I mean, that's the important point. And I think that the reason that people are excited about this is, well, because yeah, once these funds start accumulating that Bitcoin, you know, it's going to lead to less Bitcoin in the market. It's going to drive up spot prices potentially, and there is only a certain amount of Bitcoin to go around. Whereas if we only for the rest of time rely on futures ETFs, derivatives can be structured up by multiple X's, and it still won't impact on the fundamental Bitcoin supply and fundamental supply on the market. So that's the main differences between a spot and a futures-based ETF. One is synthetic, one is actually holding the physical Bitcoin.
Yeah. So yeah, the spot ETF is going out into the spot market.
Exactly.
And do you know off the top of your head where the term spot comes from? Like it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, you know, the spot market. What exactly does spot mean? Is it because you're buying it
right
on
now,
the spot?
On the spot,
on
exactly.
The spot.
Right now on the spot, whereas futures are like you deliver for instruments that are delivered at a later date. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah. And I think what's interesting about this is, and why many people have been frustrated with the SEC around this spot delay, is that the argument the SEC has used for spot instruments is, oh, there's the potential for market manipulation, right? And what's farcical and nonsensical about that argument is the fact that futures are a lot more, you can manipulate futures a lot easier than you can the Bitcoin spot market. And in fact, in TradFi, there's a lot of funds out there that utilize arbitrage opportunities to go around the roll, because they have to buy more futures when it comes to the closing of the futures agreements, right? And then these funds will go in arbitrage and buy and sell, because all these funds have to go and buy or sell futures instruments to track the price on these rollovers. And funds will actually utilize that opportunity to buy or sell ahead of them. And that's where the tracking error comes in. That's where the fees come in. So it's actually more, you can actually manipulate a futures instrument more than you can a spot. So that's why it's a farcical argument. But it seems that, you know, the SEC is getting with the picture, hopefully. This is all the applications are for, yeah.
That's a good question. And also, I guess it's, you know, I hope sort of Nick's answer to that kind of helps sort of explain why there is this excitement around a spot ETF, you know, why it's a big deal. Because I'm sure a lot of people out there are going, well, they already have ETFs. What's the difference? Why is everyone getting so excited about this one? So kind of on that note, James McCormick asks, and again, like I'm going to defer to you on this a little bit as well. Please, can you explain the difference between buying Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin ETF?
I mean, it's a good question. I guess it just comes down to self-custody. Do you hold the Bitcoin? Obviously holding the physical Bitcoin is the whole reason why people want to invest in, well, a lot of the reason why people want to invest in Bitcoin is because you control the keys, you control the asset, no one can do anything with it. You can send it to whoever you want, you can use it to transact. Whereas if you're buying an ETF, you're going to be doing it probably through your trading account. You'll probably have a tax-free savings account of some description. So there are tax advantages if you're buying a Bitcoin ETF, if you're going to put it into a tax-efficient investment vehicle or whatever you use, if you have an IRA, things like that. So there are benefits, of course, to investing in an ETF that you don't have necessarily with investing in Bitcoin itself as as the physical Bitcoin itself. But you have to weigh that up. I mean, some people, both of them are good options to a certain degree because there have been pros and cons. But I think that people should actually feel the importance of having hold of their own physical Bitcoin. So if you're going to be investing in Bitcoin through a Bitcoin ETF through your IRA or tax-free savings account, that's fine. But also maybe try and pick up a bit of Bitcoin on the market as well and hold it in your self-custody just to feel the importance of having your own Bitcoin and in your rainy day in case, you know, BlackRock does decide to rug you and steal all your Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't think BlackRock would do that, but I think what's important is, like one of the most amazing things about Bitcoin is that it is an asset. It's probably, you know, almost the only asset really that you can hold and that no one can take away from you or devalue. You know, it's like holding cash is all very well, but if the government, you know, we've seen this, governments have done this before, you know, I think the Indian government did it. They issued new notes. So everyone who was holding cash had to go in and redeem it. Otherwise that cash could become worthless. Holding gold is all well and good, and it's, a lot of people store a value of choice. But the US government back in the
1930s,
forbade people from holding gold.
Executive order for FDR, give us, we're going to come grab your gold.
Yeah, it became an offense to hold it. And I guess
also, try imagine trying to flee a country as a refugee with all the gold you saved.
Yeah.
Not that easy.
Yeah. So this is the kind of miraculous thing about Bitcoin. It's this amazing store of value that you can literally take anywhere. And you can take any amount of it anywhere. So if people, I think if people are sort of planning on buying the ETF, it's like, if it was me, I would prefer to hold actual Bitcoin in my own wallet 100% of the time. Like, you make a good point about the tax efficiencies of it, and I guess that's something for people to consider. And look, it is going to attract a lot of new money into the market, but for me, nothing beats holding Bitcoin itself, just in your own wallet. Don't keep 100%. It on an exchange.
And also, I think, to be honest, it is for complete newbies, the concept of holding your own Bitcoin, setting up your own wallet, sending it, is still a relatively, difficult. Not, it's something that we take for granted, but it's something that newbies may feel a bit daunted by, which is very simple. You just say to your registered investment advisor, oh, okay, can we just get some allocation to Bitcoin in my tax-free savings account? Boom.
Yeah.
Obviously, the importance is you understand why the Bitcoin is there, why self-custody is important. But if it's easy enough for you to just do it right now to get in, fine.
I guess as well, for if you're an institution, if you're a pension fund, say, and you want exposure to Bitcoin, it would be much easier to do it via an ETF rather than having to figure out, because then you'd have to find a custody solution.
They don't want to custody it. It's a lot easier. BlackRock's got using the best custodies out there, and it's within the regulatory framework. I don't even know, some pension funds, according to fiduciary investment mandates, they can't go out there and actually hold Bitcoin unless they actually go through all these steps.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so let's move on.
Let's move on. So this one is from Nkedia Ankit. I hope I spelled that correctly, pronounced that correctly. So that's the top 3 alts for the next bull cycle.
Here we go.
Okay. Alts again. Alts.
Alt picks. Okay. Gosh, that's a tricky one. It's especially hard to call that when everything is pumping.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you run the risk of sort of either being seen to be sort of jumping aboard a fast-moving train, FOMOing in, or having missed the train entirely. Okay, well, let me think. So at the moment, I think obviously Solana has a big narrative behind it at the moment. It does look like at the moment, like it is the big competing L1 to Ethereum. So I think we kind of got to choose it. I know you're going to read that as massive FOMO, but it does look like a good contender. I'm also going to say Arbitrum as well, because I think of the Ethereum layer 2s, it seems to have the momentum at the moment. They've got the Arbitrum Incentive Fund, which they've been spending a lot of money on
50
growing
million,
out.
right?
Yeah. On growing out the Arbitrum ecosystem.
That's a good pick.
So that's one of my picks. I should also say, like in Coin Bureau Club, which is our subscription-based altcoin portal, if you like, we have all the team members, Nick included, have our portfolios and also our watch lists there. And I noticed that Arbitrum is on my watch list, as is Solana, but I noticed Arbitrum was on a few other watch lists as well.
I was actually going to suggest Arbitrum as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can't suggest Arbitrum now because I've suggested it. That's how it works.
That's good.
Okay. So I need to think. So I need to go for one more. And like I should say as well, I've been saying this for a while, and I think it's still relevant. I still believe that some of the top projects or some of the big projects for the next bull market aren't necessarily out there yet.
Oh yeah.
There's still, I think there's still probably a few products sort of waiting to come to market that probably, if these good market conditions persist, will probably come to market quite soon. So,
and also they'll be coming at a time with a much lower market cap with much more potential gains, right? In the next bull, if they can be launching within the next bull market. So,
Yeah. So to pick another one off the top of my head, this was one that we covered on Coin Bureau Club recently. It's another Ethereum layer 2 actually called Metis. I know Dan, our head of research, is a big fan of it. He was kind of leading the research into Metis. It's a fascinating project. Vitalik's mum's coin.
Oh, really?
Vitalik's mum's project. So there's a narrative for you.
Yeah, I mean, she's got the inside scoop on Ethereum scaling.
Yeah. Really interesting project. A lot going on there, and yeah, I think some of the best tech of a lot of projects, but also of layer 2s in general. Sorry to interrupt you folks, but I have to let you know about the Coin Bureau deals page. My team and I have been able to pull together some of the best promos and discounts in the whole crypto space. We're talking trading fee discounts of over 50%, thousands of dollars in bonus airdrops, amazing deals at top exchanges, reduced prices on hardware wallets, and much, much more besides. So just go to coinbureau.com/deals, also linked to below, and find the promo suited to you. Enjoy the rest of the video. So what are your top 3 alts then? And you can't obviously say Solana, Arbitrum or Metis. It's the benefit of answering those questions first.
You're lucky you got this question first. One I've mentioned before, and I'll say it again, is Injective. Now, I know it's rallied a hell of a lot recently, but I've been following the project for quite some time, and it's, it first started out as just as a perpetual Cosmos, SDK-based DEX, that was going to perpetual DEX, but it's recently expanded into so much more, just basically a DeFi platform and a layer 1 for open finance. They've launched a lot of interesting products recently. Their Helix perpetual DEX recently launched pre-futures. So basically trading futures on coins that are not on the market yet. So it's kind of like, this has been the realm mostly of centralized exchanges, so it's interesting. They've also recently integrated with Google BigQuery for the cloud infrastructure. And I think we've also had it quite a few times on our polls in Coin Bureau Club, because in Coin Bureau Club, people can vote for the kind of projects we're going to review, and we've had it for like 3 times. So
I think it's got quite close each time.
Quite close. So I need to rally the Injective ninjas to get this reviewed, to talk about it. So that's the one of them. I was going to mention Arbitrum, but you got to it first. So I'll say another one which is potentially interesting, especially if you believe in the narrative of liquid staking, is Rocket Pool. Now, the reason it's interesting is because obviously when people think about liquid staking, they're all thinking about Lido Finance, Lido, and it is the biggest, liquid staking protocol and DAO. But I think that you should start looking down the spectrum and seeing which ones have more potential if liquid staking is going to be an exciting narrative for the next bull market. So I think it's one to also explore. And then I think another one you could consider looking at, especially in terms of narratives for bull markets. I've said this before, but I think decentralized social media is a big one. And we've also just launched a video on DeSo, right?
I think that's going out. Yeah, that's going out today.
Yeah. So another video on the Coin Bureau Club that's going to be talking about DeSo and the decentralized social media narrative, which is interesting. So if you guys want to watch that, link below for Coin Bureau Club, and we'll be launching soon.
Check it out. That DeSo video was fascinating.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Very, I'm not sure how I feel about that project. I was kind of in 2 minds after it. I was like, this is really interesting, but there was a lot I was unsure about. Anyhow, Magical CB, can you see Uncle Gary giving all a nice present before Christmas, approving a spot Bitcoin ETF?
I love that Christmas present.
Do you know what would be especially nice about that Christmas present is that you just know Gary doesn't want to do it. Yeah. He doesn't want to approve it, but
so not only are you going to be enjoying Christmas, buying cool gifts with all the gains you made, but Gary's going to be sitting there brewing over the fact that, damn, I had to approve it.
Yeah. I think they should make Gary dress up as Father Christmas and come down Michael Saylor's chimney and personally deliver him.
Well, I'm just trying to think about Gary in a Father Christmas outfit.
let's not go there. I'm sure Michael Saylor would have a fire burning in the grate below. I think there's a very good chance. So we're currently in this window period, aren't we? So I think the first thing to bear in mind is that the likelihood seems to be that the SEC will maybe not wants to, but will look to approve all 12 applications at once. The reason being that if they don't, if they were to only approve 9, say, or only approve BlackRock's, for instance, then they would be open to allegations of favoritism, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like, do they want, a whole load of butthurt asset managers, going, well, our ETF hasn't been nearly as successful because, the other guys got there first.
Yeah.
So I think that logically they're going to want to either approve all 12 or reject all 12, which, remember, is still a possibility. So we are in this window between comment periods. The SEC can't approve an ETF during a comment period. So the fact that we're now between 2 comment periods means
that ends
that
on next week Friday.
Next week Friday, yeah. So I think this is partly why we've got this hype at the moment. If it doesn't happen during this comment period, then the next window is in January.
Yeah. There, I think the bulk consensus in terms of the ETF analysts depends how much weight you put on their analysis/probabilities, but it's 90% likely in January. So that's the next time to look forward to.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I would say probably it'll be a late Christmas present.
Yeah. Okay. Now, next question from Tioga, man, cool name, man. Are we going into a correction after ETF launch? That's a thought-provoking one.
Well, so what's going to happen? The ETFs are going to get approved, like we said, probably in January, but who knows? Yeah. So I think obviously that would, there would be inflows.
Yeah.
And I think we would see the market pump pretty significantly as a result. I'd be pretty amazed if it didn't. So the question is, like, how much is an approval priced in already? How much are we going to see in the way of inflows into these ETFs when they're approved? And are those inflows going to be enough to kind of sustain a rally, way past that? I would imagine what my sort of spidey sense tells me, if you like, is that we'll see an approval, a rally, and then a slight drawback, a slight pullback. I don't think it will be, a catastrophic pullback, but I think we'll perhaps see, there is a chance that the inflows might not be as, face melting as people are expecting. There is a chance that a lot of this has already been priced in. You might disagree with me on this one. So I think there's a strong likelihood that we would see a bit of a pullback, but I don't think it would last very long, and it would be one of these pullbacks that we do see during a bull market. And, bear in mind, there's also the halving coming up as well. So that's going to be sort of fairly hot on the heels of an ETF approval, assuming it comes in January. So perhaps we could see a bit of a dip going into the halving, and then, a sort of subsequent pump after that. But I'm kind of expecting a correction, but I don't think it'll be a huge one. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a huge correction. I think there's numerous factors that will driving the price of Bitcoin out of the ETF approvals. I mean, one, there'll be the euphoria for most of the people who already hold Bitcoin and trying to invest and actually potentially gather some gains out of the ETF launch on the news. I know that people say there's the notion that, you sell the event, buy the rumor, sell the event. But in this case, the event is fundamentally changing the way people can invest in Bitcoin, right? And it's also the question of, it's not just people individually who decide whether they want to invest in Bitcoin through the ETF, but it's also funds and large institutional investors who may want to allocate some of their capital towards Bitcoin as a risk-off hedge of some description. If someone's large commodity funds want to hold some Bitcoin as a diversification from their gold holdings. So there's been a lot of reports and analysis we've looked into, we've analyzed as well, that have talked about the amount of flows that could be coming from these TradFi funds into Bitcoin, and this could be sustained over numerous periods of months. And then I was also reading a story yesterday by the CEO of the Bitwise Asset Management, right, and one of the ETF applicants, and he was saying that it will also take some time for the rest of the retail market to actually discover that there is a Bitcoin that they can actually invest into, because we follow it a lot, right? And we all, sometimes you got to understand that the average retail investor, they don't look at it as often. They're not following this ETF thing as much, and they're only once they've spoken to their financial advisors after, say, 3 to 4 months, they speak to them once every 6 months or once every year, and their financial advisors say, hey, well, have you guys do you guys know that now Bitcoin is available through an ETF? And then only then does retail realize, actually, I can invest in Bitcoin now through my savings account of some description.
Yeah.
So that could continue sustaining the flows into it through the ETFs. And then, of course, there's the halving coming up after that, right? And I mean, that's obviously, many people view the halving as a fundamental point in Bitcoin's, market cycle. Obviously, like I always say, past performance is not a predictor of future returns, but it generally does impact on the price. And then there's also the question around how macro conditions will change after the halving. If we now, the interest rates are kind of like a pause, and if we start seeing a pivot towards the back end of next year, Q3, Q4, then liquidity starts flowing back in, things become better, and from a macro perspective. So will we see a correction? It will be a very small one if we do. I don't think that it's going to be enough to kill the narrative and kill the rally. Yeah.
I wonder as well, like, there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of, as you say, like, we're in crypto, so we're kind of, we're in the bubble. It's all we really think and talk about.
Yeah.
But there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of talk in the wider media, in the mainstream media, if you like, about Bitcoin. The only real crypto-related story that's been in the wider media recently has been the SBF trial. Now, from past experience, the halving does tend to be a story that gets a bit more coverage in the mainstream media. So, as you know, in relation to your point about maybe retail being slow to adapt to these ETFs, perhaps as the SBF trial. So again, like, that's another date. So he's sentenced in March.
Yeah.
So let's say we get ETF approval in January. SBF gets sentenced in March. They lock him up, throw away the key. Everyone can forget about him. Then, come April, we have the halving. Now, I wonder whether the narrative, there'll be the SBF and FTX will be in the past. The halving will be in the future. We'll have ETFs. Maybe, that is the moment when, when retail hears about it, and it's like, oh, I hear there's another Bitcoin halving. Yeah. What do you mean there's an ETF? Why didn't you tell me? Oh my God! In we go.
In come the grandmothers and grandfathers and asking us about Bitcoin again.
Yeah. What's this Bitcoin thing? It just. I mean, I get the impression 2024 is going to be wild.
It's exciting, man.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it immensely. Okay, who's asking this next question?
You, I think.
Who's taking this hot potato?
This hot potato. This is.
Okay.
How are we gonna thread this needle?
Right. So Robin Overholzer asks, and I think this is a good question, by the way. Do you think Trump will change his stance towards crypto if he's re-elected? Wow. There's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack. I guess the straight answer is depends how his ETH bags are doing. Because he holds a lot of ETH from those NFTs he sold. Yeah, this is an interesting one because it also plays into what's going to happen if we do see the Republicans and Trump winning next year. Because obviously on the Republican side, they seem to be more pro-crypto. It seems to be, at least for now. But Trump himself is anti-crypto. And he's made many comments about it before. He's very pro-US dollar. He's just anti-crypto. He said that there's no need for it when you have the US dollar. Something tells me Trump isn't the kind of guy who changes his mind that easily. I don't know. What do you think?
I think, say what you want about Trump, but I think he's a smart guy in that he knows how people work. And therefore, I think he probably knows an opportunity when he sees one. I think he's quite an opportunist. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. I think that's, one of the reasons he's got where he has. But so I think if he sort of saw the narrative changing, and again, I think this ETF business could be a big deal. If the US has taken this giant step, if it's seen floods of institutional money into Bitcoin, then I think Trump could very well read the room there and just be like, if he can see his way to seeing Bitcoin as an asset that benefits the United States. And if that means inflows into ETFs, bear in mind, a lot of Bitcoin miners are based in the United States. Yeah. So that could be, by being supportive of Bitcoin, he could be seen to be supporting a US industry Bitcoin miners are, concentrated in Texas.
Yeah.
The red state of Texas. So I think if he can join the dots to see Bitcoin and crypto more widely as a positive force for the United States, then I think he could change his stance. I mean, look, as you said, he's issued an NFT collection. He can't be that anti-crypto.
He can't be that anti-crypto. All he could just be trying to make money like all of us in a bear market.
Yeah.
I think that you make a good point there, actually, is that he'll do a lot to get elected, right? And he has been fluid on some other stances just if he knows the narrative has been moving. I guess, and I've also wondered this, it's like on the Democrat side, especially from, the Biden, the White House stance on crypto and things like that. I don't think it's a vote-winning issue to be anti-crypto. Elizabeth Warren out there saying, we want to build an anti-crypto army, right? But you realize that a lot of Gen Z and a lot of your voters would potentially, crypto as a financial technology they're interested in.
Yeah.
You're not gaining votes per se. So, it could be an opportunity for him to basically say, cast a complete polarity of what the Biden White House is saying about crypto. And, I think that a lot of people, for them, crypto is an important issue because, right, if you either you believe in the technology, you're in the industry, you're forward thinking, you're tech native, like you actually see the value of crypto, so you may utilize that as a decision of where you're going to vote. So maybe he does. Maybe a leopard does change his votes. We'll see.
Yeah. It could draw. He could use it to draw an even starker comparison with Biden and the Democrats.
Yeah.
Let's see. I wonder how Elizabeth Warren's anti-crypto army is going.
I wonder if it's doing any. I wonder if it's taking losses.
Yeah.
Dropping out like flies.
Taking some incoming fire at the moment, isn't it? Okay, what's the next question? Well handled on that hot potato, by the way. Yeah. Politics, eh?
Politics, no. We try to avoid it, but sometimes you can't.
And with the absolute inevitability comes a question about XRP.
Ooh.
So this is...
Be careful. This is also...
Yeah, this is another hot potato.
XRP army. Yeah.
Hot potatoes all over
That's the crypto army you don't want to be messing with.
Yeah. Okay, so Joyce Baganesi, I hope I pronounced that right, is asking, will XRP increase? Nick, will it?
Yeah, I think it will, 100%, especially in the next bull market. I think that how much it will increase is open for debate because it is already a relatively large market cap coin. There's also the questions around how much utility demand is going to actually come from the XRP ledger and whether the Ripple itself as a company, the moves that Ripple, its company, is making is going to actually impact on the price because they are very separate. But obviously, utility use within the XRP ledger and ecosystem will lead to demand for XRP. I think that also Ripple has done a very good job in terms of against the SEC for the community, the crypto community.
Yeah.
Apparently the SEC now can't appeal. And they actually seem to, more recently, I saw 2 to 3 days ago, it seems like they collaborating or coordinated for a potential settlement of some description in terms of the back and forths. And Ripple itself as a company is doing a lot of big things in terms of, there was Ripple Swell recently where they announced deals and with numerous different countries. And
it was here in Dubai, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And also with the Dubai International...
DIFC,
something to the effect, some agreements there. So, of course, like I said, it depends, all these these agreements with all these people who are going to utilize XRP Ledger will eventually lead to potential demand for XRP. We do have to remember, though, it's got a very high max supply, and a lot of it is still held by Ripple. But the part of the reason that people are worried about XRP price is potential Ripple Inc. sales. But apparently there was also rumors of there's been rumors for quite some time, not rumors, but like they've said they may want to IPO, and then there's more recently, like a month or two ago, rumors with them searching for people who specialize in IPOs in their careers field, that they could IPO. And obviously an IPO will lead to a lot more capital for Ripple Labs, and they won't need to necessarily sell any more of the XRP to be able to fund anything. And also, they don't have to do any more legal battles with the SEC. They won't need funding.
Yeah, that's gonna free up a lot of cash.
Free up capital. So I mean, the short answer to your question, yes, it will increase. How much more? Probably not as much as lower to mid cap alts, but I think that. And last but not least, in terms of on the pro side, is we'll come back to the XRP army. Like they're steadfast in there. We've often sometimes run against
We've done battle with the XRP army.
Yeah, but I'll credit when it's due. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Ripple and XRP are going absolute gangbusters at the moment. Good on them. Okay. Is it your? Is it you to ask the next one?
So this is for someone FSPM. Okay. He's asking a nightmare depositing fiat in any Canadian exchange. Any suggestion? Yeah. I mean, this is actually a question which I have experience in because I've dealt with quite a few Canadian exchanges. I mean, I lived in Canada for like 5 years. I'm actually Canadian as well. And, I think that the question it depends really. Like, there's a number of exchanges you could use. I mean, there's obviously CoinSquare, there's BitBuy, which has now become Wonderfi, but it's owned by Mr. Wonderful, who I'm not too much of a fan of. I can't imagine too many crypto accounts are a fan of.
Mr. Not So Wonderful.
Yeah. Then there's also Coinbase recently launched in Canada. And if you get in fiat onto a Canadian exchange for Canadian dollar rails, there's Interact, so daily transfer, which is quick and easy. But the main question, I don't know if the question is related to him struggling with his banks, because banks in Canada are still relatively anti-crypto, as many other places. So they may stop transfers onto these exchanges. That's probably the big question out there is if your bank is crypto friendly or not. I think that some banks are known, like RBC's been known to have big issues with crypto, and if they see it's going to a crypto exchange, they just block all transfers. But yeah, those exchanges should do it in terms of fiat rails. There's also one more, ShakePay, but they only have like 2 crypto supporters. So
right.
But it's okay if you just want to fiat on-ramp.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like I think everyone should have as many kind of fiat on-ramps as possible, because once your fiat is in the ecosystem, then you're okay. You can use,
do whatever you want.
Yeah, you can move it around in stables or BTC or whatever you want. It's that initial part of getting it out of a bank and into crypto itself.
So it's basically, if you're just looking for any sort of fiat on-ramping solution, look at the fees, look at the payments supported options, and that's all that really matters, because you can always, once you're within crypto, once you've entered the matrix, then it's all good.
Yeah, you're all good. Yeah. Okay, Canadian exchanges, they have a checkered history, don't they?
Believe it or not, but I also have an account, or had an account at Quadriga.
Really?
Yeah, thankfully I had no coins in it. There was one of the first exchanges I used to on-ramp in Canada, and it was dog shit then. So I was always really like, this exchange is either going to rug, but yeah.
That is a crazy story, Quadriga CX. Okay, last question. God, we've waffled on for a bit. Once we get started, it's very difficult to stop us. Yeah. So last question is from Snapdoodles, and they ask, is selling bad in the next bull market? Want to buy a house, but I'm reluctant on selling.
You can take this one first, I think.
Okay, sure. No, selling is not bad in the bull market, especially if you're taking profits as you go. There's this idea of diamond handing through thick and thin. Now that works for some people, but look, people are in crypto to make money. So if you've bought crypto during the bear market and you're in profit during the bull market, then you should sell. I think that's not financial advice, even though it might sound like it. But no one ever went broke taking profits, and I often reference, when people ask me sort of these sorts of questions, I always say, well, everyone has their own particular circumstance. Some people may be saving for a Lamborghini. Some people, in your case, may be looking to buy a house. So if you have an opportunity to meet your particular financial goal, whatever it may be, then you should take it.
Yeah.
And look,
stick to it.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's very important. People, if you're looking to firstly ask yourself what you're trying to do in the next bull market. If it is to accumulate capital to be able to do something with it, then you got to have a plan to exit, to start taking profits. It doesn't have to all be at once. It can be through a DCA strategy. It can be at particular levels. So you got to set up your trading strategy and your seller and your exit strategy in the bull market. And you don't have to exit all of it. It's just you can exit a certain percentage of it, but stick to that strategy, because the problem is, when you're feeling the FOMO, when you're thinking of the potential gains, then it plays with your mind, and you then think about, actually, that house that I wanted, it was a big house, but I wanted 3 bedrooms, not 2. that car that I wanted, a Benz is nice, but a Lambo is better.
Yeah.
Right? And then the problem is, it's like you get stuck into that. And it's also just thinking about the potential for foregone opportunities and profit, right? And we've all been there. Like, I've been there. There's some coins that I've held to the peaks, and they're literally like now in the doldrums. And I think, Jesus, I was thinking of selling. I should have sold. I asked myself, should I sell? And I didn't. And that's the thing. You need to be able to just agree and just, once you've sold, just don't think about it. If you still hold, that's great, and then you can continue. You don't have to sell everything. But once you've sold out, you've made the decision, you've reached your financial goals, and you want to exit the market, then do it. And don't let people tell you, oh, okay, well, have fun staying poor, or that's it, you're out of the markets. That you can't comment on crypto anymore. Everyone has their own financial goals, and they should be, they should stick to a plan. That's for sure.
Yeah, make a plan and stick to it. Identify what sort of house it is you want to buy, within reason. And then, as Nick says, don't sort of go adding bedrooms to it as your things go up. It's, maybe I could have a helipad. Because you will, if you make a plan and you stick to it, then you will be able to enjoy that house, in theory, for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
So, don't be afraid to stick to a plan.
And that house will feel a lot better if Bitcoin does eventually crash below your take profit levels.
Yeah.
And you're saying to yourself, okay, and then you can pick up Bitcoin again. So, use lies for a reason.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, another great Q&A. So thanks, guys, for sending in your questions. Thank you, Nick, for joining.
Sure. And if you're not following our Instagram, it's down below. Coin.bureau. Still trying to lobby Facebook to get us that bloody coin bureau without the dot in between.
Now that Mark Zuckerberg is presumably off work with his destroyed cruciate ligament, maybe he can find a bit of time to sort out our Instagram for us. So Instagram for questions, Coin Bureau Club, our altcoin subscription service that we've been talking about. There's a link to that below as well. There's a link to lots of cool stuff below. We will be back next week, or maybe we won't. Maybe it'll be Nick and Jessica next week. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.
Cheers, guys.